The black waters of the Florida Everglades, a perfect place for the creatures of the marshlands to hide and wait, while the monsters of the Midway strut their stuff on one of the legendary tracks in the sport. Up next, a different sort of beast claws its way through the swamps. We are deep in the heart of some beautiful, silty, sandy countryside, but not the kind that's so nice to the people who want to kick off their shoes and feel the sand between their toes, because there are some critters crawling around out here that pack quite a bite. We are in Naples, Florida at the legendary Florida Sports Park, home for 7+ decades to the world-famous swamp buggies, who 4 times a year battle it out to see who will be king of the swamps, and once a year, the monsters are invited to town, in this case, the form of the 2023 Monster Masters Championship Series, part of the All-Star Monster Truck Tour, and we welcome you to round number 3 of what has already, in 2 events, been a grueling series. That was last week out in Brooksville, Florida. That was a very different kind of track and a very different surface. Stacy Jensen and the crew have had to work their tails off all week, and I mean all week, to turn this sand into a racing surface, and that is not an indictment of Florida Sports Park, because normally all of this is underwater. Today they have it dried out for the most part. We'll explain in a moment, because the monsters are going to do battle on, well, it's a little sand, little silt, little mud, little scum, a little bit of everything out here, and it's hard to find a bite. These guys will battle it out in best trick, racing, and freestyle. And of course, when the swamp buggies come to Naples, they have to contend with the sippy hole. It's not kind to anyone. The monsters will contend with that very same sippy hole. The swamp buggies do battle in the sippy hole. The monsters, on the other hand, will do battle high above the sippy hole if all goes right. And it did not go right for one Corey Snyder last year right here in Naples, Florida. He landed in the drink and found himself without power, and he felt, no pun intended, that he was hung out to dry, because the other 4 drivers opted not to take a shot at the sippy hole. This year, that's not the case. We know there's already 3 drivers back there that said they will definitely be taking a shot at the massive jump to try to clear some 80-foot long gap. And there are 2 sippy holes, and don't think the little one at center track is any easier than the big one. That's not all, though. These guys are battling for points. As we've mentioned throughout this series, very important points in each competition, each round, building toward that season end total. And we have spoilers on this series. One of them, and maybe the biggest spoiler early in the year, is Joe Sylvester in Bad Habit. He comes into this week with the points lead. It's something he's not going to be able to hang on to before the end of the year, but he can make life hard on every other competitor on this track at this facility as we get ready to get things underway. It's going to be a wild afternoon of competition here at Florida Sports Park. Stay with us. The action gets underway when we come back to Naples, Florida.
This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by RPM Army, the place to get your motorsports fix.
There's only one place in the world you can find this much old school cool. Freedom Racing Monster Trucks. The home of Cyclops and Unnamed and Untamed. Get yourself a limited edition toy at freedomracingmt.com.
This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by Monsters Monthly. Stay up to date with photos, videos, event info, and more at monstersmonthly.com. And by Crush This. For an inside look at the monster truck phenomenon, check out Crush This, a monster truck podcast.
2 rounds of the All-Star Monster Truck Tour have seen 2 different points leaders as we come into round number 3 here at Florida Sports Park in Naples, overlooking the Sippy Hole. That'll come into play in freestyle only. They can't hit it during best trick, and it's not part of the racetrack, fortunately for these guys, today here in Florida, although we did talk to Stacy Jensen. He said maybe in another year in time. Here are the points coming into today's action. Bad Habit leading the charge by 8 points over Toxic 2.0 and Crazy Train, who had come out of round number 1 as the points leader. He's looking to get back on top, sitting just above his brother, who is not here in Plane Crazy. The truck is here. We'll tell you about that in a moment as well. And Elliot Miller in Sinistar rounding out our 5-truck field at this point in the 2023 Monster Masters Championship Series. And speaking of Sinistar, Brian Bartle built machine right there out of Ionia, Michigan. Elliot Miller, fan turned promoter turned monster truck owner and driver, and one of the great personalities in this business. There is only one, Elliot Miller, and driving an incredible machine. I said it before, if this chassis could talk, it's one of the copies of the early Patrick chassis designs with the V cradle and the high center of gravity engine placement allow it to do some awesome slap wheelies, some awesome sky wheelies in the best trick competition. You have 2 chances to take your best shot at the obstacles out here on the track to gain valuable points. Classic move for that machine right there. The nose high in the air, nearly vertical sky wheelie. I said there's a little bit of everything on this track. He found some muck down there, and that is not normal mud if you walk in. I know it sounds a little bit silly, but the mud out here, it feels dry when you first step into it. It's sort of like a slurry. It's a milkshake underneath of some dry sand, so it's a mess if you get yourself stuck down there as he goes for hit number 2 in Sinistar. Slides to a stop, almost got himself in trouble there. He was hoping and praying he would not end up in that Sippy Hole as he did a nice job with the stoppie. Here's a look at that first move, and that was awesome. Front end pointed straight at the beautiful blue Florida skies. Bouncing down onto the rear end. You can do damage that way if you're not careful, but the ground here is pretty soft. So you can see a lot of that sand blowing off. Score of 6 to start the best trick competition. Better than half the points taken up there. There are 10 points available to each truck. Now, talked about this. You see right, Buddy Tompkins of Geneva, Florida, back at the wheel of a monster truck here in 2023. He was the runner-up in Raising Cane on this series last year, now helping out while Montana Robbins works to graduate from high school. I believe he was going for a slap wheelie there, and he could not get it to stick. It does sound like something might be going away in that engine, though. Hopefully not, but something did not sound right when he got back on the power. Not at all what Tompkins was looking for, and not what he wanted to do as a favor to Montana Robbins, and that's going to hurt a big time. A score of 3. So not bottom of the barrel. It was as impressive as it was going to be, but he's definitely got something to work on when he gets back to the pits. Something is not right in that truck. Now, out of Frederick, Maryland, Toxic 2.0 Corey Snyder, 557 cubic inches of Chevrolet horsepower in the back of one bad black and green Ford. Also going for the slap wheelie, and you can see just how hard it is to get a bite in this sand, and he found some more mud down there. There is a lot of real estate to cover out here when these guys get to freestyle. The racetrack is going to be your basic round-around course down here on the front stretch, but got a ton to hit out there for freestyle. That's what he was looking for as the rear end starts to drive under the front. Putting all 1,400 horsepower to work. Toxic 2.0. Turning them on here in Naples, Florida. The crowd loving it right now as we get another look at the run. And This second hit was nearly perfect. Watch him wait for the truck to come back up. Taps the brakes right there, gets the rebound in the front end, and once it sticks, he doesn't get on the throttle while it's in the air. Once it sticks, he plants the horsepower and drives on to a score of 6 points. He ties with Elliot Miller in Sinistar as the original points leader on this tour comes out. The guy who led points after round one, that is Triton Robbins in Crazy Train out of Lawton's, New York. Guy builds his own engines out of Mike Janis's shop in Elma, New York. Big Jansen power plant in this thing, and Triton ready to go to work here in Crazy Train. Showing the power right there, but again, you can see just how hard it is to find traction on this front stretch. And remember, this is where they're going to do the racing a little bit later on as he stalks around looking for his next hit. This is the only competition where you really have time to stop, back up, set up for your next move, and he's taking full advantage of that. Classic stoppie from Crazy Train. Triton Robbins looking good right now. I have to wait and see what the score is. We've been about even up as far as everybody that's come out so far, but he appears to be having a problem, though, as he shuts down. Robbins out of the truck right now, and he's looking underneath down in the area where the transmission is. He may have just broken an input shaft, something simple they can get fixed in between competitions, but things move very quickly here, so hopefully it's not going to take him out of competition today, because the loss of points is something he can ill afford. Here's another look at the run. A nice shot there, trying to power into it. I think he was going to try to walk it down the other side of the ramp. Did not really work that, or put it into a slap wheel, and again, there just isn't the bite there to do that down here in all this sand, and it's silty up on that grass too, but you saw Corey Snyder found something up there to get a hold of, and then again with the stoppie, and it looked like maybe when he tried to put it in reverse, the transmission let go. They are indeed going to have to take it back and get it worked on. A score of 7, though. He did get 1 point up on Sinistar and Toxic with one truck left to go. Joe Sylvester out of Boardman, Ohio in the Kuffleitner Auto Group sponsored Bad Habit. Very different sort of horsepower in this truck that lets him get away with what he just did. And he runs a totally different rear end setup than anybody here. Got himself in the midst of some obstacles there and just hammered on it. That was impressive. I don't know what he's going to get for his score, but it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. Sylvester, I thought, did pretty well. Got a nice rebound there, and those big Freightliner rear ends allow him to get on the power a lot earlier into that slap than a lot of other guys could. He can get on the throttle before the rear end's even on the ground. He can still blow them out, but they have a lot more rigidity than others, and only a 5 for Sylvester. That's a surprise, as Bad Habit will come just a little bit short as we look at the overall points after that best trick competition. Bad Habit still leading the charge at 104 points, followed by Toxic, Crazy Train, and Plain Crazy. No movement thus far in the point series, but that could change when we come back to Naples, Florida as round 1 racing gets underway. Stay with us. work underway underneath of the crazy train out of Lawton's, New York. See Buddy Tompkins over there, and that's Bob's cousin, I believe, up alongside the truck, and they do indeed have to change the transmission, which means they are going to miss racing competition, and he could not afford that of all times right now. But the guy leading the charge right now, fortunately, cannot take the point series, so there is that. But Joe Sylvester could make life hard on the rest of these guys, as Sinistar will take on Bad Habit in round 1. Toxic 2.0 will take on Plain Crazy. The two winners will move on to the championship race, of course. And we will actually be seeing a third-place matchup before we get to our championship race as Buddy Tompkins rolls out in Plain Crazy. Talk about a guy who battled with transmissions last year as he takes on Toxic 2.0. He'd love to get last season back. Good start for Tompkins right now. Snyder had a good run going, ended up in the mud, and a big takeover now for Tompkins, who already had the lead. Buddy Tompkins nearly lapping Corey Snyder, and Snyder just found himself in that slurry that I talked about down at the far end of the track there. Tompkins got him off the line, but once Snyder got in that mud, watch it again. See Tompkins with just that little bit of a jump off the line, got into the turn first. Snyder, though, trying to get back on the power. The rear end came around on him, and he found himself looking right down the barrel of a big blue Chevrolet from New York. As two of the loudest vehicles on the tour roll to the starting line, Elliott Miller and Sinistar, look at all the junk, I guess we'll call it, collecting on those China tires of Elliott Miller's. Sylvester underneath of Bad Habit, those Primexes that have been cut by Jeff Hood. Those should be able to get a good grip in this sand here. Let's see what he does. Good start for both, but an immediate lead for Bad Habit. Was all Joe Sylvester, and that big Steve Vance horsepower is right where it wants to be, because Steve builds some of the biggest engines in mud racing and dirt drags, and you see right there the hook coming off the line. Call them the scooper tires, the hater cuts. Definitely getting a hold of this sand. He wanted to run China tires on this tour, and ended up blowing one of the ones he got from Alan Pizzo out, so he doesn't have them this weekend, as he only had 3 of them left. He's looking to get another set, but I think he's going to be happy with this tire selection down here, as he'll take on Plain Crazy in our championship race. The two Fords coming back to the line, though, to do battle in our third place race, and I don't know that some of the fans realize what's going on here. They may think this is the championship being decided right now. Sinistar and Toxic rolling to the line, pair of Fords. Big Super Duties, very different construction on these two chassis. One of them weighing in right around 12,000 pounds, that being Sinistar. Toxic weighing in around 13.5. The very heavy Toxic 2.0 against Sinistar. 2 generations of chassis development right here on the starting line. Great start for both trucks. Miller, though, with a little bit of trouble on that slick end of the track. Snyder takes the lead. See if he can hang on to it. He's got a sizable advantage right now, but he's in the slick stuff again. Miller coming back. Snyder fought for all it was worth, but he could not regain the lead. Once he gave it up, he got into the slurry again. And I have a hunch right now, we're going to find out when he comes back down on this replay, when he comes back down to this end of the track. Let's see how far down toward this cone he goes. Was to get into the corner. I'm not going to say I'm positive he's doing this, but I think he may think that the cone for the quad boards is for the monster trucks. I'm not positive that's what he's doing, but he's definitely coming a lot further down than the other guys are. As you saw, Miller made the corner right around the freestyle obstacle. Snyder ended up all the way down here by the cone. He may have just slid that far, but I'm not real positive as Joe Sylvester throws a little sand in our lenses as he goes blowing past us here on the infield. Here comes Buddy Tompkins and Plain Crazy. Back down to the starting line. Friend of ours from right here in the state of Florida, Dustin Spallone, getting these guys staged up along with promoter Brian Wagner. You see running off to the left of your screen there. Spallone back down to the infield as these guys meet on the front stretch before they get staged for a little trash talk, as always. Trying to put a psych job on each other, but you're talking about two guys. Probably more ego than psychology can handle right now. Buddy Tompkins, the hired gun for this weekend, taking on his buddy Joe Sylvester in Bad Habit. We've seen these guys do battle before, but Buddy was in a different truck. Let's see what he has here. Good start for both. Sylvester is digging in. Takes about a truck length advantage into the final corner. And it's all Bad Habit. Tompkins trying to lay into it, but he just couldn't make it happen. I do believe Joe Sylvester is going to be very happy he kept those tires on that truck here this weekend. Gets into the wall right there. It's even slick for those big Primaxes as he found the slick stuff that Elliott Miller got into there in front of the Sippy hole. Another look at it. A great start for both those guys. Sylvester actually had a little bit of a lead coming over the first jump there. And by the time he got back around, he gained about a truck length advantage there into the second leg. And then into the final leg, he just took over the lead in the final corner. It was all over as long as Sylvester made a legal jump, which he did. He's headed down to talk with Chuck Plumley.
My friend, two-time racing winner on the All-Star Tour. You don't have many days with us left, but it doesn't matter. If you're the age of a wild card, you just want to screw everything up. But going to victory lane, that's your number one priority.
That's it. We come out here 1 in 10. One to win, and then put on a show for these fans. It will win for us, the win for the fans. That means we're tearing it down, we're burning it down out here. We still got freestyle left to go. I love winning racing. We're ready to go put on a show for these Florida fans here in freestyle.
You love taking trophies home, but this one is special because you said, I got special fans in Naples. All I want to do is see those checker flags on them, tear the truck up, I don't want to give stuff away.
Absolutely. I got friends here. I got family here. I love this place. The sun's shining. Thank you guys for showing up and turning out, coming and supporting us. You guys are awesome. I can hear you out there in the truck. Now let me hear you. There you go. If you love
Sylvester making one starstruck fan very happy right there. We have some developments happening right now we're going to tell you about when we come back for the Carnage here in Naples. Surrounded by the serene, sometimes scary beasts of the Everglades. No, that is not our sippy hole. We're looking out at some beautiful countryside just south of the Florida Sports Park here in Naples. You see our sippy hole right there. I believe the only gators in there this weekend are inflatable, and I think the wind may have carried them off somewhere. Right now, as we look at the points coming into Freestyle, Bad Habit now leading by 12 over Toxic 2.0, who lost some ground there in racing, ended up in 4th place, but he could make it back here. And remember, he has a score to settle with the Sippy Hole here this weekend. Crazy Train trying to move back up on these guys. He lost some more ground by not racing. Plain Crazy moving up on Crazy Train, now only 1 point apart, and Sinistar 10 points away from that 4th place spot. So there could be a lot of movement here in this freestyle competition. There below the number 1 spot, and Corey Snyder is definitely within striking distance of the man in the number 1 spot. Although some of these guys, I'm not so sure, aren't biding time to wait and see if Joe Sylvester is able to come out of this first 3-week run with the point lead, and they're going to hate me for saying that. Right now, though, Elliot Miller in Sinistar getting ready to open things up here in the sands of Naples, Florida. Announcing his presence, definitely. And remember, I said there is a lot of real estate to cover out here. You're going to get a good look at it right now. The drone shots courtesy of SeajayeFPV from right here in the Sunshine State. And man, does he risk some expensive equipment to get those shots. Got himself in a little bit of trouble over there when he got into that slick stuff again. Another big sky wheelie out of Sinistar. He comes slamming down on the rear end. Blowing sand everywhere, those big zoomies. That truck may have more bark than bite right now. That's a lot of horsepower blowing those tires off like that. He couldn't find a bike to save his life out here. And Miller will wrap it up in front of the crowd here in Naples. An awesome opening run here in Freestyle. Throwing down the gauntlet. I don't know if it's going to hang on to the lead, but he's definitely going to make these guys work for their scores here this afternoon. You can see the darker color of the silt out there under the grasses of Florida Sports Park. It's a totally different world when you get out there on that grass. We're down here where the water usually sits, and he made the most of it out there. Nice job. Here's a look at that sky wheelie we saw from the front-on shot. Look how far he carried that thing over, bouncing down onto the front end. And I mentioned it when we were out in Brooksville. He had a different engine combination coming into here. They were towing him off the track, though something went away on this truck. I do believe he may have lost a blower belt on that run as Stacy Jensen tows him off. Farmer will help him get that thing tightened back up for tomorrow, but nothing to be ashamed of. Got 3rd place in racing, picked up some points, opening Freestyle with an 8, a 7, and a 7 for a score of 22. Elliot Miller, as I said, throwing down the gauntlet early. Now we only have 4 trucks in Freestyle. Crazy Train is repaired. He's back out here on the infield. They now have a transmission problem in Plain Crazy, which may explain why he wasn't able to get on the power the way he wanted to earlier in competition, as Corey Snyder rolls out now in Toxic 2.0. Second in points right now with a score to settle, not with the other competitors, but with this piece of real estate, specifically with the big sippy hole over here on the front stretch. into that big Chevy motor right now as he plows up burrows in the sand down there. He slid back into his worst enemy right now, I think, today, which has been that slurry down there at the far end of the track. Apart last week in Brooksville, and right now Corey Snyder living up to his MO, and that is to kind of stalk back and forth. He takes a little warm-up time, really cuts that power loose, and he is headed across track right now, although he takes a right-hand turn. I thought he was headed for the sippy hole. Although he might be, remember, there's a smaller sippy hole out at center track. It looks like he's going to take his first shot at that thing. We forgot about this one. Hammers it hard, going nose high. Corey Snyder. I'll tell you what, Kevin Ricco just took a sigh of relief after that. Look at him get on the power and carry the front end. Corey Snyder in Toxic 2.0, turning up the heat here in Naples. Take another look at some of the highlights from this run, and we just got word he actually made contact with CJ's drone out there, but this was an awesome run. Didn't go for the big sippy hole, but I do believe that was because he got enough from this one right here. He did clear it, but look at this. This was almost disaster as he came down. Did a perfect job driving out of it. Had it come over any quicker, he would have gone end over end. But as I said, Kevin Ricco and Stacy Jensen took a big sigh of relief right there that they did not have to run out and clean that truck up off the track. And here's a look at the drone shot. Watch this. Bang! Right off the GoPro. Still flying around, still following him. That is the talent of SeajayeFPV as we get one more look at a highlight on the run. That awesome slap wheelie straight up and down, and that is the power of that Kevin Stauffer racing engine in the back of that machine. Let's see what the score is. A 9, an 8, and an 8 to take over the lead by 3 points. A score of 25 for Corey Snyder in Toxic 2.0. Running the wheels off that thing. Definitely had some exclamation points as he made his statement. Little palate cleanser for you here, the serenity of the Everglades, before we head back to Florida Sports Park for more carnage.
Hey, welcome to Wildman Adventures. We're at the Silver Lake Sand Dragway. There really wasn't any off-roading back then. It was all off-road. We're on our way to Lima, Ohio. Got wooden wheels.
Oh, it's slippery as all get out of.
Hey, we're here with Rich Cummins. Hey, we're here with Mike Potter. Hey, we're here with Alan Pizzo. Gotta check it out. This week we're gonna go down memory lane.
You hear the horn of the Big Red Choo-Choo out of Lawton's, New York. The owner standing there right now with Elliot Miller, and you see these guys are ready to watch Triton Robbins take on this track? There has been some chatter in the pits as to who would take on the Sippy hole. We knew Joe Sylvester said he was going to go after. There was no doubt Joe was going to take it on. The question is, will this guy do it? He said he would. Comes out screaming right now, going after Corey Snyder's 25. Again, plenty of room out there to play with, although he just knocked down one of the porta potties on the backside of the track. A little extra crush there for the fans. There weren't any real crushable obstacles here. He made one. I believe that's insured though, so. Not spending any time really lining up moves, just hitting whatever is in front of him, keeping the noise level, keeping the momentum up. And he is headed back behind the hot pits, and I do believe we are about to see our first attempt at the Sippy hole. Oh, he's headed there. He took the long way around. He wants to get a long shot at it. Has the momentum, and look at this, the truck comes apart. Oh my goodness. There was a very different electricity in the air right before he hit that ramp, and the energy here now is something else. This crowd just saw what may be the spectacle of the season. We're only in round 2. He climbs out of it. Wasn't a very hard hit because the broken wheels took up a lot of the shock as he gets a high five. You saw the look on his face when he came out. I don't think he was quite sure what happened there. You know, he saw the right front leave the truck, but I don't think he knew that the left rear had come off until he got out. That was Kevin Ricco, by the way, of Team Tox. It was the first person over to him. What a ride for Triton Robbins.
Come on in, first of all, it's all fun and games, but how do you physically feel? Are you okay?
I feel fine. You know, that's exactly what I did not have in mind. You know, one thing I gotta say is we beat the living hell out of these trucks every time we put on a show for you fans. Those spindles on that truck are over 10 years old. I'm not saying that's a part failure. That's more of a driver error, obviously. But you know what? We're gonna be up all night putting it back together. It really sucks, but I hope you guys enjoyed it.
There you go. I just want you to take a look. You just made a whole bunch of fans. On the count of 3, I want you to show some love one more time. 1, 2, 3.
Some of the best fans in motorsports, and you know what the highlight's going to be from this run. This still would have been the highlight even if the truck hadn't come apart. What a wild way to end this freestyle. Not the way he wanted to end it at all, and I don't know that I've ever seen 2 tires break off in that configuration. We've seen 2 tires come off of a truck in the past. It's usually 2 on one side or 2 front or 2 rear, but 1 left, 1 right is quite interesting. You can see the right front took off. And that's the one we know he initially saw. I don't know that he knew what to make of the other tire that went past him. But that thing was sitting awfully level, but awfully low. When he finally came to a stop, here's another look at it. You get a better idea of the landing. It really doesn't look like there was much resistance there. Hard to see the rear tire on impact from that angle. Here it is from the base of the ramp.
It's going to take plenty of time to get
like butter. It came right off. So I believe there may have been some damage back there on that left rear corner. I'm not sure when it came down and broke if that allowed it to go all the way through and take out the right front. But again,
we're waiting for the scores to come. Oh, real quick, the judges want to see your checker flag.
a lot of damage right there. He does run the wheel restraints that are required by pretty much all promoters in monster truck competition, but he pretty well severed both of those spindles right there, and he just ripped everything apart, sheared the bolts on one side, broke the axle right there. Another shot from SeajayeFPV, and again, that thing did not have much resistance as he followed the right front all the way out to the infield. But again, that's why they don't have personnel standing down there at center track.
Round factor, a perfect pin. 29 points, the Crazy Train.
There you hear it from Chuck Plumley as Triton Robbins sits over there with his dad, still wide-eyed, man. That is a look of adrenaline. He went for a ride as everybody stands by to see what Joe Sylvester has for the leader right now, Triton Robbins, with a score of 29. There's 1 point left for Joe Sylvester, and he has gone right to the big jump to start things off. I say that was a wise move right there. It looked like he was just going to make that left-hand turn and go for it. That was a good move. Realign it. These guys probably anxious to see how this one ends up. Again, a little bit short, but the truck is still in one piece. He is just hammered down right now. Those overhead shots give you a good idea just how huge this park is. And look at this. He's going back for more, I do believe. Didn't even line it up. He's got back into the throttle. Working the track to perfection. He knew he was going to have to do it more than once because that 29 is going to be hard to beat. Everybody getting out of the way down there as he just doused the camera crew with wet sand. Awesome launch going away as he works center track. The hater cuts, ripping up the sod. And he stops with the wall cam right between the tires right there. Put a little scare into the camera crew. Get another look at the run. We'll wait on the score. That was an awesome shot right there. Twice over the sippy hole. There's the first hit. You can see he actually landed about where Triton Robbins did. taking his best shot at it. Again, an awesome run. And look at him get back on the power before the rear end is even set down. Those big meaty cleats digging in. Those big Freightliner rear ends allowing him to put the power back into the ground and get those slap wheelies. Let's see what the score is. Remember, a 29 was the score to beat. A 10 on use, of course, a 9 on momentum, and a 10 on wow factor. It is a tie for the freestyle lead here in Naples, Florida. But I can tell you, with the overall points here in Naples, Joe Sylvester will take this event overall and continue to extend that points lead over Toxic 2.0. Crazy Train, though, is catching Toxic just like he needed to do. He's only 1 point out of the number 2 spot going into tomorrow's competition. Sinistar now moves up to 4th after the problems Buddy Tompkins had with playing crazy. He was not able to freestyle, and that hurt him immensely. He's going to try to gain back some of that lost honor tomorrow, I guarantee you that. And look at this. Plowing up the infield, dragging the train back. There's not much else they can do because they got to work on that thing, and you can see all the dirt, mud, sand. There's a little of that slurry I keep making mention to inside of that thing. They're going to have to clean it and then get to work repairing it because they have to come back tomorrow. There's one more look at the dreaded ramp that did all the damage. We're not done from here in Naples. Next time, we'll bring you the action from round number 4 from Florida Sports Park. We will see you then.